rights. We have also introduced use of some views of others on the current so-called pandemic and rule by non-elected so-called experts with only their views and data models, which has been proven to be inaccurate, and their refusal to get other experts' views, data, and experience. We, the people, will not accept rule by experts, but only by elected officials. I am personally suggesting that you and your businesses refuse to abide and honor their unconstitutional suggestions. So they are suggestions, orders, and mandates that have no force of law, and go back to work and your life. This will force them to damage you and subject them to criminal and civil action. You only have the rights that you're willing to stand for. Otherwise, you're just acting like a slave. I'm going to bring something up right now that let Steve take in for a bit. Steve Hempling, my co-host. Welcome, Steve, to Personalities in the News. And we introduced the listeners and the viewers to the constructive notice last week. This is how we, the people, can lawfully and peacefully recover our republic. More in this discussion. Steve, carry it away.
Yeah, you want to talk about the constructive notice, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to, I wasn't on it at the moment. So here it comes. The constructive notice is a notice that we can send to the elected officials, the mayor, the governor, that talks about that we have constitutional rights, that you cannot take these rights away. And that's what we're going to be, we put it up on our website, as a matter of fact, too. So I'm having trouble finding my text on it here, Truman.
Oh, son of a gun.
And I don't know I don't know what's going on with my computer these days.
Just a minute, I'll see if I can pull mine up here. I don't feel like the Lone Ranger right now. I got all our talking points listed here, and I can't find that constructive notice. Oh, well, it's up on the website, and I had a call. Here it is right here. I had a call from Steve, an email from Steve from Illinois a couple days ago, and it was about, I sent him an email, and he responded to it. It was about his governor who is accused of profiting during this pandemic. That's the governor in Illinois. So I sent that to him, let him know that the constructive notice was up and on the website, and here it is, and have fun. Steve, carry it on.
Okay. There are several people downloading this off our website. It's on freeenterprisesociety.com. And like I say, I'm having trouble finding. I'm getting it because my computer's starting to act up here. So I don't know why that is. It was just sitting here not too long ago. But so,
is there anything that you want me to bring up on my copy here while you're looking?
Well, we're just going to talk about it a little bit. The beginning of it talks about this letter constitutes direct and constructive notice. Now, what constructive notice is you're putting someone on notice. In this case, elected officials, and it goes to all their subordinates and their replacement successors or substitutes. And under the color of law or police power, violate any of my civil rights or constitutional rights, whether they are contract rights or refusal of contract rights, or any violation of due process of law or equal protection under the law available to me as a right, I will sue you for general punitive damage. I will sue you personally. Now, this is based on the fact that the federal law and the Constitution doesn't allow for these lockdowns. We have a free country here. Now, China does lockdowns. In fact, they were the first one to do it, and I was extremely disappointed that the United States just followed China's move. I mean, what kind of idiocy is that? Because they're a communist country. The people there have no rights. They are property. They can be jailed, arrested, whatever, anytime the government wants. There is no due process there. There's no rights. There's no right to particularly trial. They have trials there, but they're just show trials, as we had in England before this country was existed. But here's the thing: we're talking about two types of actions. One was civil rights and also RICO. So this is under Title 18, Chapter 13, Section 241 and 242. These two sections make it a felony to use or conspire to use color of law to enforce a code or regulation which results in the violation of a person's rights. Violators will be prosecuted. Now, Section 241, here it is. Conspiracy against rights of the citizens or intimidate any citizen in the free exercise or enjoyment of any right or privilege secured to him by the Constitution or laws of any state, or because of him having exercised the same, or if two or more persons go in disguise, or on the premises of another, I'm skipping a little bit here, with the intent to prevent or hinder his free exercise and enjoyment of any right or privilege so secured, they shall be fined not more than $10,000 and imprisoned not more than 10 years. That's pretty powerful. And they can even go up to life on those things. Section 241, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but in general, this is deprivation of rights under color of law. Whoever under color of law deprives anyone of constitutional rights, immunities. The immunities secured or protected by the Constitution or laws of the United States to the different punishments, pains, or penalties are then prescribed that the shall be fined not more than $1,000 or imprisoned not more than 1 year. But here's the civil rights thing. Title 42, Section 1983. When two or more persons conspire to use force, intimidation, or threat, or to injure a person or deprive them of rights and privileges as a United States citizen, the party injured shall have the action for the recovery of damages occasioned by such injury or deprivation against any one or more of the conspirators. Now, these are civil actions. They're not criminal actions. You don't need the U.S. attorney to do anything. You don't need the district attorney to do anything. These are something you can do on your own. And that's important. Truman, you've done this.
Yes, I have.
And here's the case. There's a couple of them, but the Supreme Court, the main one is the Supreme Court case Harlow versus Fitzgerald. A lot of people think you can't sue a government agent because they have all kinds of immunity, and that the government will bring all their attorneys and all their millions of dollars and billions of dollars to bear against you, which makes it kind of hard to battle them in court. But Harlow says this. It's the 1982 case, 457 U.S. 800-102, Supreme Court, 2727, 73, L.ED, 2nd, 396. In case somebody wants to look it up. Now, this is a quote from there, the text of the case. We therefore hold that a government official performing discretionary functions generally are shielded from liability from civil damages, insofar as their conduct does not violate clearly established statutory or constitutional rights of which a reasonable person would have known. And it goes on, a reasonable, competent public official should know the law governing his conduct. And I say none of them do any hardly. They think they can do anything. It continues on. By defining the limits of a qualified immunity, essentially as objective terms, we provide no license to lawless conduct. And furthermore, you can sue, when you're done with this, you can sue personally. Now, that's a big key, isn't it, Truman?
Yes, it is, and it works. It pulls away from your action any state response or legal fees out of public money or state lawyers. And if you sue on them under their official capacity, all of that is brought to bear. And they'll delay and delay and delay. And to me, looking at the way things are going nowadays and have for years, the minute you bring two opposing attorneys in, parties, this is what they do. They delay. It'd probably be several years before this thing ever got to a court. We can't wait several years. We have to take action now. Steve?
Yeah, that's right. We have one more case here, just put a little more icing on, but there's really quite a few sites that could be found. This is Doyle versus Wilson, 529 F Sup 1343. It's a 1982 case as well. Any person found who is violating the rights of a citizen may be subject to the damages sustained by the individual and the cost of the action together with the attorney's fees. And it cites Section 240, 18 U.S.C. Section 241, 242, and 1983, ones we just covered for you. And it says you can be subject. You personally, shall subject you personally and may subject you to fines up to $10,000 in imprisonment. That's where it says it. I mean, it's one of the places. Now, that difference is you sue the governor or you sue the mayor, and you do it personally. They cannot get the state attorneys and all the tax money to back them up, and that changes the whole picture.
Whole picture. I've got one here I'd like to read. This is this ruling is not an opinion. This is a ruling of the United States Supreme Court shortly after the Civil War in Ex parte Milligan at 71 U.S. 2, and this was done in 1866, which yet stands to this day. Neither the legislature nor any executive or judicial officer may disregard the provisions of the Constitution in case of emergency. Didn't the president declare an emergency? Section 98, therefore, anyone who declares the suspension of the constitutionally guaranteed rights to freely travel, peacefully assemble, earn a living, freely worship, and so forth, and or attempts to enforce such suspension within 50 independent, sovereign, continental United States of America is making war against our constitutions, and therefore we, the people. They violate their constitutional oath and thus immediately forfeit their office and authority, and their proclamations may be disregarded with impunity. And that means anyone, even the governor and the president. And I have a excerpt here that was given to me by a friend of mine that goes into the text of the decision, but I'm not going to read that because it's rather lengthy. But you are not commanded by anybody to honor these edicts put down by the governors or whoever follows their orders, all the way down to the cop on the beat. Isn't that right, Steve?
In this country, we are free, and unless we bother someone else or interfere with someone else, steal something or hurt someone else or search someone's property, and there are some cases that deal with quarantine, for example, because disease has been pretty damaging in the 17 thing or whatever it was too. But those only deal with... We got a break coming up, Steve. You can call in 559-721-2822. Talk Radio, KXEX 1550 AM. We'll be right back after the break. Thank you. Okay, Steve, we're still hot on the video part. All the ads go out to the local people. Would you like to comment on where you were? Yeah. Where was I? Yeah. These things only deal with these. I did lost my train of thought here. They cannot, in a free country, they don't have authority to take away your constitutional rights for some emergency. The quarantine cases that they're relying on for emergency use, for declared emergency, have only dealt with sick people. They're not quarantining healthy people. They're quarantined everybody. That's ridiculous. And there are examples that show that, how ridiculous that is, in my opinion. One of those is Sweden. Have you heard about Sweden, I assume, right?
Yes, I've been reading some on that. It comes across on the internet that a lot of the people are quoting that. So,
well, Sweden never did do a lockdown. Their schools are open. Their restaurants more or less are open. Everything, they did a little public distance, the distancing thing a little bit and stuff, and asked people to be careful. And the strange thing about Sweden is the people trust their government there.
We used to, but not anymore. And if you remember, the mandate was never trust the government. That's what the Bill of Rights was all about. That's why we have the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. You don't trust them, and we're to protect our Constitution from these people that are doing it from within. If somebody declared war on us, I don't think they'd make it. But we've got war from our own people inside. Steve, we got a minute. You want to go?
Sure. In Sweden, they have, without doing the lockdown, they have their death rate is just a little higher than the United States. But yet, other countries nearby who did draconian lockdowns in Europe are having like 3 times what the United States had, and and Sweden. You know, it bothers me that, you know, the governor's going to take credit for saving millions of lives, and I think he's going to be the one who caused a lot of the death and problems here, because he's destroyed so many businesses. A lot of people have lost everything. So, and I don't know why people are so grateful to him. According to some poll, which I don't know, you know, I don't trust the polls necessarily, but Governor Newsom's given 80% approval.
Okay, we're going to be coming back on the air here in just a few seconds here. When you hear the music, I'll be talking. Welcome back to Personalities in the News. I'm Truman Sigler. And we're going to continue on with this thread that we're talking about right now, which is the constructive notice. And then we'll be moving into some other areas of interest here. Steve, you want to comment any more on the constructive notice?
Well, there it goes again. Okay, here we are. Well, the way this works, you simply send this thing. It's only a 2-page document right now. It's on freeenterprisesociety.com. We decided to make it free. You can download it. It's a little package. It has the direct and constructive notice in there. It has the instructions on how to use it. It has the mailing instructions and everything. And what you do is you send it at least to your governor, and you can send it to the mayor if you got a mayor giving you trouble or dictating orders to people, which he has no right to do, with the exception of people that work for the city in a mayor case. You can send it to the police chief. You can send it to the sheriff. You don't need to send it to necessarily everybody. You might send it to the county health board if they're the ones giving you problems. I don't know what kind of, you know, some of you may not have direct problem or direct relationship or face-to-face or getting fines or something, but all of us have been damaged from this lockdown. Even those people that are still working are hurting, because the economy is making a big downturn here, and it's going to affect people. So I think anybody can do this, but I think the main purpose of this is you're putting on the notice that I have constitutional rights. You have no right to take them. You can't suspend them under any circumstances. I claim all my rights. I waive none. I volunteer for nothing. And if you hurt me, you know, that way with a constitutional violation, I'm going to go after you in a personal way where you're going to have to pay for your own defense. And what's interesting there too is you don't need an attorney to do this either. So,
well, I'd like to comment. Go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll go on. Should we play?
Well, these sections of the code don't really require an attorney. I mean, you can have an attorney, but they're really made for people. The burden of proof is actually more on the defendant than it would normally be in most cases, because these are public servants that are, when they're violating the law and the way the laws are written in this section. So.
Well, they took an oath of office. That's what makes it powerful. They swore that they would follow the law, and the law doesn't give them any room on that.
The Constitution, yes, the Constitution does several things. One is, when you take an oath, what you're doing is take an oath to defend an individual's rights, his property, his liberty, and they're doing everything the opposite of that. They're threatening you with jail. People are being arrested for not having a mask on. I mean, this is absolutely, it's criminal. It's what it is. And you know, Americans are starting to stand up and say, wait a minute, but you know, I wish they'd done it earlier, because we could have, to me, if it's unconstitutional today, it was unconstitutional on the first day. But you know, Americans are patient, and they said, well, we'll give you 15 days, and then that went through. You know how that worked out. So at the time, a lot of people were more concerned about the disease, but now we know the disease isn't even all that.
Right, Steve, I'd like to read the instructions and suggestions for use of the constructive notice. It's not that long, but most people think that this is going to be a long, drawn-out thing, and you have to have a whole bunch of legal knowledge and all of these things. That's not so. The first step in the due process of law is the notice. If we want due process, we must use it. First thing is naming the person you're going to send it to. I would suggest the governor of the state do not use his or her title, just the name. The reason is that she started this unlawful use of power, and all the people that follow their edicts are noticed in this declaration, as you heard when Steve read it. The declaration and law sections are not to be used as printed in the sample. If you want to notice others, there are suggestions on the sample sheet. Do not use their job title or description, just their name. You edit this letter to suit who you want to serve, because this is you suing, not anybody else. You. This notice must be notarized. All those named will have to be served in person, preferred, or by certified mail with return service. You need only notarize one document if all of those you are receiving is on the letter serving. The notary will use a separate page. Copy each page, including the notary page. Also include a true copy page in each mailing. Also keep a copy of this mailing and the certification information, whether it's from a process server or you did it by mail. The pandemic has damaged most people. If you have been directly confronted by some person or department, such as the health department, then you would want to include them in your notice. You should assemble a list of people and damages you and or your business suffered as a direct result of this unlawful action by them. You must concentrate on your case, situation, and not be influenced by other people's situation or what happened to them. Again, this is your suit. If you want to use a lawyer or attorney in this notice, their name cannot be on the notice. Again, I repeat, this is not the lawsuit, only the first step. Our paralegal should be back working for us again here. Her mother died last week, and she's been going through all what you have to do when somebody does that. So she's been kind of in the background. And this will fit the timeline of the constructed notice, because we are giving them to 10 days to write any opposition or anything they want to do to this constructive notice. If they don't, and they try to with the state government or something, you notify the state or the local people that it's a felony for them to use public funds for private people. If you get any response from those named in the notice, from any government lawyer official, do not respond to them. Contact us first. The reason is that you do not notice anyone in their official capacity, is to keep them from using government funds to defend them, which is a felony, and will defeat the use of this approach. Also, strongly suggest you understand the quoted sections of federal law in this notice, and this basically is a RICO action. What's RICO? Racketeering. And you think they're not racketeering us, you got another thing coming. Steve?
No, that's right. And I want to point out that there are a lot of these lockdowns are starting to be beat in court also. I mean, you're not on thin ice or anything. You got the law squarely on your side as an American. This is outrageous, and I've never seen anything quite like this. And if we let them get away with this type of ridiculous, unconstitutional acts, we're going to see this all the time. They think they own us at this point. And I don't see why they would ever let go of that power. Governor Newsom he seems to be very happy ordering people around. It kind of galls me. I mean, there's people sitting around in Sacramento getting their paycheck and deciding who's not going to get their paycheck. I mean, it's ridiculous. And now that enough time has passed, I mean, you just got to use your eyes, because Walmart is just packed with people, hundreds of people in Walmart, Home Depot, all these stores that stayed open. I mean, come on. To believe the people now that this is a serious pandemic would have you believe that you're going to be stepping over dead bodies at Walmart to go shopping. I mean, nothing happened there.
No, they don't want dead bodies in there.
No, but I mean, the point is, this is not that serious of a thing. It's maybe a nasty flu, from what people have described to me. And the elderly, I mean, a lot of our death came from New York and New Jersey, where they ordered COVID patients into the old folks' homes. It doesn't make any sense. That in itself should be a crime, because that was done by executive order. Somebody thought about that and said, here's where we're going to put them. I mean, it's outrageous.
Steve, I'm going to acknowledge a few people here that are watching and listening. We've got Helen says she's streaming it. We have Michael Wismer, hello from Michigan. Michael Wiesner again, she just extended theirs in Michigan till June 12th. And so we have you people listening. I'm glad you're paying attention. And besides watching us and listening to us, do something. Go on the Free Enterprise Society website, download this constructive notice, and do it. I think we're going to be having a break coming up here shortly, just in another 2 minutes. Steve, you want to eat that 2 minutes?
Sure, we can talk about, there is a big lawsuit coming in California for the Californians. The Eagle Forum looks like they're putting that together. And they note several things about this, how unconstitutional it is, and the fact that Wisconsin already ruled against these lockdowns. They absolutely said it was unconstitutional, illegal, from start to finish. They didn't give any other reason. And the places they could open right now. Some mayors have objected to that. The governor objected, but the Supreme Court has ruled. I mean, people from surrounding states were packing into, and they're packing this weekend again into Wisconsin because the bars and stuff are open over there. And it's not. I just don't see any consequence. I would go to a crowded buffet right now tonight. But in California, besides the constitutional question, which should have happened at all, there is a limit on the emergency powers here, and the emergency powers can only last until termination of the emergency or for a period of 60 days, whichever occurs first. And we're way past 60 days in California.
Yeah, what's the section of the government code on that? You got it handy?
That is sections 8627.5.
And also
temporary suspension of statute, ordinance, regulation, and rule. And it can only, during an emergency, can only be a maximum of 60 days. Now, that doesn't even include, it doesn't even say constitutional rights can be suspended because they can't. But even giving them that, which I don't, they have to end this at 60 days.
Right.
They can't do all these phases. I mean, what's this phases? How do you phase in people? I mean, according to the Governor Newsom, you're not going to open salons until like August. That'll be in one of the last phases.
Well, you have to use a phaser for that, don't you? Don't you have to contact Star Wars to get one of those? Steve, we're getting the notice for a break. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to continue on after the break. Don't forget to call in. Talk Radio, KXEX, 1550 AM. That's 559-721-2822. We shall return. Okay, Steve, you're going to address the second section of that notice of it only runs for 60 days, and we're into 64 days, and there's a section on it that says that they can't continue on. That's section 8567B.
Yeah, we can keep going on that.
Yeah, why don't you do that after we come back, when I come back on the air.
But the other thing is the Oregon case. A lower court in Oregon also ruled the lockdown unconstitutional. Now well, I don't think they said unconstitutional, but they said it's illegal now because there's a 30-day limit in Oregon. But the 30-day limit doesn't apply to the Constitution, but it does apply to affecting businesses and other private things. In California, 60 days. In Wisconsin, that wasn't the issue. The issue was it was just illegal and unconstitutional. There was no limit. The limit, according to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, was 0, which I like.
Well, that's the way it should be.
Well, there's courts all over the place getting sued, and there should be no end to this. And the people like Governor Newsom, the mayor of Fresno, and the mayor of Los Angeles, I mean, these people do not belong in office. You even said it. That was a good case, and I want you to send me that. So that maybe should go into this notice and an update. So, if you go outside, you have you take an oath to defend the Constitution. You have laws that you are supposed to be doing, and in the event of a mayor, you got to make sure the streets are fixed and there's garbage stuff. That's your job. Your job is not to deal with private business and turn it on and off. I mean, they're making gas stations, something essential, but a lot of them don't have their restrooms open. Well, how irritating is that?
That's right.
I mean, you can't. If you travel, that's like impossible. Oh well.
Anyway, so we're going to be coming up. We go live on the air in probably about another 15, 20 seconds here. When you hear the news, the new music in the background. If you're talking, kind of hold it off until I give the announcement that we're back. We got the shush sign. Welcome back to Personalities in the News. I'm Truman Sigler for our program tonight, and Steve Hempfling, our co-host, is with us. We will now continue on with more on the constructive notice after I read something here. The opinions and views of our hosts are theirs and do not represent this program or stations. And we have some talking points that we're going to address here in this section. And we're going to continue on with them. We probably won't get all the way through, but some of the topics are talking points. Dr. Fauci is a con man. Epidemic, and what are their crimes? The CDC announcements, the new norm, and letter to the officials. Steve, you want to carry on with what you were doing on the constructive notice, and then we'll jump right into some of these others.
Yes, I was actually looking at the Eagle Forum lawsuit that they're putting together. We had finished the declaration as far as reading it, but here's the thing: in California, they have that 60-day period, and we're over 60 days. We're close to 70 days. And the next section in California is 8567B, and it says this: whenever the state of war, emergency, or state of emergency has been terminated, and it has to be terminated in maximum 60 days, it says, the orders and regulations shall have any further force and effect. Now, this is my comment. I mean, I don't think they had any force and effect, and at least on constitutional issues at all. Now, this means that all the orders that were created under the state of emergency are also expired, including but not limited to stay-at-home orders, social distancing, wearing of masks, closing of businesses. Now, closing of schools is mentioned in here, but the governor probably has some authority over schools since they're state-funded schools, and things that the state takes care of. He has some executive power over that, but there's no power of emergency. So there's even counties, Modoc County, Yuba County, I think, and a couple others. They're fully open up in Northern California, schools and all, I heard, and the governor can't do a thing about it. I mean, Fresno County could open up tomorrow or tonight if they wanted to. I mean, open. Alaska pretty much I heard is opening very soon with no restrictions whatsoever. I mean, in my opinion, this pandemic is a false pandemic. If we had done nothing, we would be like Sweden. we would say, we'd be looking around saying, gee, Truman, it's a kind of a nasty flu season this year, huh? Oh, yeah, it was a little rougher than usual. Yeah. I mean, it did not call for a shutdown at all. I mean, now that we're looking back. And so there's a lot of people's heads should roll, and as far as I'm concerned, about being thrown out of office.
Well, the time has lapsed in this state for the governor's proclamation. And one term that really disturbs me is where they keep saying on all of the social media and on the internet and everything, they're going to allow us to come back. Allow my foot. We're demanding it. And I'd like to swing into this one here, our first talking point. Has President Trump figured out that Anthony Fauci is a con man? And this is from Patriot Powerline. That's patriotpowerline.com. I got it on the internet. And I'm going to refer to page 2 and 3. If you don't think the fix is in, please take note of the big news of the morning, namely that the allegedly ultra-busy Dr. Fauci has time last evening to ping Cheryl Gay Stolberg, correspondent for the failing New York Times, in order to dump a VLCC-sized tanker load of cold water on the urgent need to end lockdown nation now. In a nanosecond, of course, Stolberg was on Twitter and online with Fauci's stirred admonition to the restless natives of flyover America to shut up and stay put. That way, the entire mainstream media had plenty of time to crank up a feverish barrage of messaging during Fauci's actual Senate appearance. as how red state governors are jumping the gun and putting life and limb, she says limb, but it's limb, in danger throughout the country. The major message that I wish to convey to the Senate HLP committee tomorrow, this is from Dr. Fauci, is the danger of trying to open the country prematurely. Fauci wrote in the email, which Stolberg posted on Twitter, if we skip over the checkpoints in the guidelines to open America again, then we risk the danger of multiple outbreaks throughout the country. This will not only result in needless suffering and death, but would actually set us back in our quest to return to normal, wrote Fauci, the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. I got a picture here I'll put up if you can read it. It's a little bit risque. It says, Dr. Faucet. You can see that. Anyway, then it goes on for a little bit of short thing here. The mad doctor's plot against you and the American people is being played out in public by a camarilla of wannabe public health rulers and their compliant media megaphones who presume to control all that moves and all that stands still in America. And it goes on to 50 pages. It's quite complete. Things like this go on, but the one that's really a kicker in my mind is one that I got from John Rappaport, and it's called a Moderna and the COVID vaccine. What kind of lunacy? And what this goes down to, the U.S. government has shelled out $500 million to this Massachusetts-based biotech firm for a COVID vaccine. Based on what? Forbes, May 8th. It's a big bet for the 10-year-old company, which currently has 24 products in the pipeline, but nothing yet on the market. The biotech sports a huge market cap of $17.5 billion, but it's posted a net loss of $514 million on revenues of just $60 million last year. And most of that incoming cash came from government grants and research. Follow the money. And collaborations with big pharmaceutical companies. Modena has never put a single product into the marketplace. Last year lost $514 million. And we got to go on to page 2 because this is where the meat is. Let me get it straightened out here. Now, how many flags do you need to see where there's a rat? Modena is partnering with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, that's NIAID, or NIAID, a federal agency headed up by whom? Tony Fauci. What's going on? One, Fauci, Gates, and others are itching to get the RNA product approved for public use. In the area of vaccines and manufacturing process is far quicker and easier than the traditional approach. Thus, they can flood the world with all sorts of new vaccines at a drop of the hat. That's what they want. A massively vaccinated planet under the gun. And number 2, if Fauci can run through his partner Moderna's vaccine, get it approved and released, his heroic status, the dumbed down public would skyrocket him higher. He could write his own ticket. Head of the giant National Institutes of Health, Director General of the World Health Organization. And number 3, does Fauci stand to gain a personal fortune from his connection with Moderna if the COVID RNA vaccine is approved? I don't know, but of course a quick backdoor dollar deal involving Fauci would be a simple proposition. So think about it. As easy as billionaire Gates and his howdy-doody smile. Now that is a killer as far as I'm concerned. When you read those things, there he is, standing behind the president, acting like the president, with our money, our lives, and everything else. Steve, would you comment on that for a minute? I dropped the paper and got to pick it up.
Fauci is absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand why Trump is still relying on that guy at all. I mean, all his predictions. I mean, what predictions have been true on him? From AIDS to SARS-1 to the flu, bird flu, he was wrong on all that. It was doom and gloom. On the AIDS, he pretty much predicted everyone dying. I mean, he's not I don't know why he thinks he's such an authority. And the CDC is nothing but a political organization now. Has nothing to do with public health, as far as I can see. I mean, they were spending money trying to ban guns here not too long ago. I mean, what's that got to do with public health? I mean, in their minds, I guess it does, because I don't know what they are. They're just political. But let's talk about Georgia. When Georgia opened up about a month ago, pretty much on a large scale compared to California and others. And I mean, the media was bad on them. It's like a death camp. Or I mean, they said some terrible things about Georgia. And you know what? Georgia's doing just fine. Everything is dropping. The infections are dropping. The deaths are dropping. The hospitalizations are dropping, and they're doing fine. Florida the same way. And I mean, there's nothing to back this up. And the CDC has been, they've proven liars in the 2005 SARS breakout. Even the British Medical Journal wrote an article about how bad, and the CDC fudged the numbers. They don't count the deaths properly. They don't know if they're a COVID-19 person. I've seen two doctors, both out of Bakersfield, says they do autopsies. They're pressured heavily by the CDC to write COVID-19 on their death certificates. If these two guys in Bakersfield are doing it, every doctor in the country is being pressured by the CDC to lie on the death certificates. And probably a lot of them do, because they're afraid, they think the CDC knows what they're talking about, or they're afraid of them or something. But you can't count on that. You can't count on the number of cases that they say is out there. I mean, you can't even count on this test. This test that they're talking about is 80% inaccurate from what I hear from doctors that have tried to use it. What good is that?
Not much.
I mean, you'd be better off flipping a coin. Hey, Truman, let's see if you're sick. Flip a coin. Yep, that's heads. You're good. You can go, Well,
I keep looking for heads, and all I keep getting is a coin that's standing on its end. So who knows?
And we can go to Sonoma County. They're addressing.
Okay, we got a break coming up, and we'll continue on with this when we come back. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try to get through all these talking points, but we may not make it. Got 3 to go. So, Mr. Engineer, take it away. Okay, Steve, we're still hot for the viewers.
Well, we can go back to this Eagle Forum thing. They're talking about the Sonoma County and the law enforcement up there, what they're doing to address this, because we have passed the point of sanity in this lockdown, is what it says. I mean, I could have wrote this, or part of it anyway. I mean, it has now become clear that this has nothing to do with public health. Your unlawful restrictions on commerce, health care. I mean, you can't go to the dentist. You can't get elective health care. You can't get your normal appointments. You're forced to wear a mask against other health care providers saying it's bad. And, I've got pages after page on how bad masks are for you. They're going to make the situation worse. And it's idiotic. If you're 6 feet apart, why do you need a mask? And if you're right by each other, both with masks, why do you need to be 6 foot apart? I mean, all of it is idiotic. Today, the CDC changed their guidelines and said, well, if you can't be 6 foot apart, then you need a mask. That is completely opposite of what they just said, last week. And in the beginning, they said it won't help you at all. You remember that, Truman?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if you're not a healthcare professional, you don't even know how to put on this mask. I mean, that is so stupid. And then, a couple of days later, they said, well, we need them for healthcare workers, and now it's built to the many places want to require them, and they can't make them fast enough. But I mean, how can you not put it on? I can't put the rubber bands around my ears for nothing. I put it on, it's covered my ear instead of my face. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong. I mean, I'm just not trained well enough.
Well, that's because you don't listen to what they're telling. That's why you're not trained.
I don't really listen to what people tell me to do things. That's true. If it's unreasonable, then it's unreasonable. And this is I just roll my eyes at all this stuff that's going on. I mean, the businesses are doing it because they're desperate. They got to get back to work. They're doing some of these things, even though they think, the ones I've talked to all think it's stupid now. But they're doing it because they're afraid of the governor. They're afraid of the county, because they have a little control over them through their licensing. But that license contract doesn't allow for this. They paid their whatever the license fee is, they should be working.
Okay, I think we're going to be coming on here in just a few seconds, so kind of wait for the music, and then we'll continue on with what you're saying. Then I'm going to break in a little bit with another talking point. Welcome back to Personalities in the News, and I'm Truman Sigler, and to keep going here so we don't run out of time, we have a lot more we want to say, but I am going to say, this is another one from John Rappaport on No More Fake News. Who pushes the idea of an epidemic? What are their crimes? And this is from an article or a book written by a couple of doctors. It's called A Story of Corruption, New York Review of Books, January 15, 2009. With my coverage of the so-called pandemic, we are seeing many new readers showing up and paying attention. So I want to expose a few facts about modern medical system facts I've presented many times over the past 10 years. Yes, he does this because of his reputation. If the track record of major medical officials were really understood, people would ignore their current pronouncements with barely a glance. Pronouncements like, the virus is spreading. This is a major epidemic. We're testing a new protective vaccine and everyone must take it. I also expose facts because medically caused death is routinely swept under the carpet by mainstream press. Actually, as a result of media silence, the subject of medical harm is where the subject of grossly poisoned food was in the 19th and early 20th century. At that time, giant food processors had created their own Wild West where they could sell lethal poison, eat, fall down dead, and hidden in products. The press helped expose these crimes and transfix the public, which led to partial reforms. Now, in the medical arena, the press is a partner in capital crimes. Major medical officials have been sitting on a time bomb. The range of medical maiming and killing is astonishing. When you go online and get this report, it'll blow your mind at how many people routinely, yearly, daily, monthly are killed by the medical profession. It will make you not want to go to them, but that's not quite the scene. Steve, you got a comment on that?
Well, I'm not a big go-to-doctor kind of guy, but, the doctors have their place, but I don't want them to be, running the society. They're not elected officials. We're turning too much power over to the medical. This thing in California, too, does the same thing. We are free to make our own decisions, and you mentioned it earlier, and we didn't really cover it, this Bill Gates thing, along with Fauci and the World Health Organization, they're really pushing for mandatory vaccinations in this country, in this free country. And we cannot allow that to happen. Vaccinations, if you want to take them, I don't have a problem with that. But, if you rush a vaccination, they don't come out too well. We've had this problem before. Even the ones that are considered safe sometimes, wreck people. And it should be a person's choice. If you're in a free country, it is your choice. So they're not going to get away with this, in my view. And Bill Gates is, putting a lot of money into the World Health Organization, and they've done nothing but lie to us. And that's, to me, the same with the CDC. This, particularly on the mask, and all their projections have been idiotic. The mask, well, you can't wear it, and then you say we should wear it, and it's only good for professionals, and now everybody's got to wear it, and you can't go into a restaurant and eat dinner without your mask on. I mean, how can you do that? I mean, there's some of it just defies logic, and I got an engineering background, so I analyze everything, and these things don't even make sense. If you're going to wear a mask, be 6 foot apart, well, what's the point of that? If you're 6 feet apart, you don't need a mask. But the mandatory vaccinations is what they're moving toward, and I think this is one of your talking points. I don't want to steal your thunder here, but that the tracing army,
yes,
that California wants to put together sounds very, very scary, because he wants to put in 20 or 30,000 people, and nationwide they think the states are talking about, well, the medical profession, they always talk, well, you might need 300,000 tracers. This is similar to China, where they track you everywhere you go, and of course, it's only for your good.
Right. This is similar to what Hitler did back when, if you remember that, when he got a hold of the country completely by getting rid of their constitution and making it all him. He had his own police force. What did he call them? The brown shirts. You remember those? All right, they went out and did his orders, his bidding, not what was legislated. And it's just terrible. Here's one here. Doctors appeal to Trump as CDC makes this stunning announcement. This week, the CDC announced the state of America after the virus pandemic. Its director made clear that the country needs to do what the country needs to do next. Now, over 600 doctors signed a letter to President Trump warning of the grave consequences if we don't act now. What might happen could dwarf the COVID-19. For nearly 3 months, the United States has been battling the Wuhan virus. While I'm sure some Americans are still cowering in their homes, afraid to go outside. Most are sick and tired of talking about this disease. They are eager to go back to normal life, unafraid about what a virus might do. We've spent trillions on battling the disease, developing testing and treatment. Shouldn't there be any progress by now? Well, despite what CNN says, yes, there is. And the CDC is making a big announcement. Anyway, they're going to be coming out with a big announcement shortly. This was a 4-page article. I'm not going to read the rest of it because more will be coming. Steve, you got any comments on that one before?
I'm not familiar with that one. But I like Trump coming out yesterday and said, he said he declared churches to be essential. And I like Trump, but I wish he should have done this in fact, I'm not even sure, he's listened to the medical profession way too much, but he should have declared the church as essential. These are constitutional rights, and it's more than just churches. Your right to assemble. California banned protest. I mean, this is serious stuff if you look at our history of, the world. So.
Okay, well, this announcement I've got here came the day after the one that says, stay tuned for our announcement. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention just announced a massive change to previous thinking about how exactly COVID-19 spreads. The experts now say the virus does not spread easily from surface to surface. COVID-19 is a new disease, and we are still learning about how it spreads. It may be possible for COVID-19 to spread in other ways, but these are not thought to be the main ways the virus spreads, according to them. The subtle change garnered plenty of attention. As up to now, the agency had maintained that contaminated surface played a large part in the spread of the virus. Now they conclude surfaces or objects under a section that details ways in which the virus does not readily transmit. So, to me, people that wear masks used to be considered criminals. Now they want us all to wear a mask. They want us all to be criminals. Isn't that kind of ridiculous? Anyway, the NRA has one here on what the new norm will be. And it's a 7-page document. I'm going to read a couple paragraphs here. We are people who are used to hugging and shaking hands, visiting, mingling in crowds and parties. Many are having withdrawal symptoms from not going to sporting events, concerts, and other public gatherings. Graduations, weddings, funerals, family reunions, and churches have all been taken away from us. Well, we've actually surrendered to them. They didn't come out and physically take them, and that's the big problem. Used by being lessened or removed altogether. This is how we want to live our lives. No one wants this to last, and no one can bear it becoming the new norm. Stand up, people. Resist. Steve?
That's right. I mean, here's the thing. We're free people. The Constitution protects us and gives us absolute rights above and beyond the government. The office of the governor didn't exist before the Constitution existed and the states existed. The office of the president didn't exist. But yet a lot of people that are elected, particularly in California and some other states, have disdain for the Constitution. They never talk about it. And even California wants to secede from the Union because their values aren't the same anymore as what the Constitution says, I guess, which I kind of tend to agree with the elected officials. But the elected officials here in this state, I don't even want to call them officials, elected representatives. I mean, a lot of them I think belong in jail. The governor, these are serious crimes that he did. It's a felony, right, according to Section 241 and 242. You can't be any more clear than that. Mayor Garcetti there in Los Angeles, the mayor of Fresno, a lot of these guys belong right in jail. If the sheriff's department participated and arrested people, the sheriff needs to go. A lot of sheriffs stood up against this.
And Margaret Williams included, yeah.
but not all of them did, but a lot of police did question it, I'm sure. I mean, some of them went ahead and did things anyway. But the thing is, forcing citizens in a free country and a county to accept unconstitutional restrictions and emergency orders, which have, in the California's case, already expired, exceed federal guidelines, and are unlawful according to the California law, and unlawful according to the U.S. Constitution, and unlawful according to the California Constitution. They're just overreaching, and they were overreaching from day one. Federal government, even though, Trump, I think, made some mistakes, but I like Trump a lot, but he didn't do any mandatory. The CDC guidelines were voluntary. He said that many times. Even the masks are voluntary. But it's the governors and the mayors that have made these things mandatory, and they exceeded their authority from the minute they signed those orders.
Right.
Because they don't apply to the average person. Executive orders don't go outside of the people working for them.
I'd like to thank a lot of the people that are listening to us and watching us on the social media. Michael Wisner has made several comments here, some real good ones. The mask does more harm than good is one. Another one is In God We Trust. Another one is Bill Gates is a danger to humanity. And there are a lot of comments on there of the like. There is one here from Kyle Ball talking about elected servants. We just got the signal for the end of the program. If you like our format and topics, let us know and tell others. Our time is up for this evening. Thanks to the hosts for their views and opinions. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Tune in next week, same time and new stations. Talk Radio, KXEX, 1550 AM, TV channel 32.3. Truman Sigler and Steve Hempling for Personalities of the News. Good night.
Talk to you next week.
Boy, that hour went fast.
It did, but my computer's running like in a sludge or something happened.
I think that's probably more people online is what's
No,
doing it.
it's not that. I couldn't. Well, I'm not even on Facebook or anything right now. I couldn't even just switch between my windows. There's something running in the background that's not supposed to be there, taking up all my time. So I'm going to have to fix that.
Yes. Well, hopefully Sue Ann will be on the internet next week, and so we can correspond in drafting up the generic complaint that people can modify for their particular situation, and that should have them ready if they don't get a reply back on the constructive notice, or if some officials try to bring the government into it. My main concern is that they don't try to bifurcate this into the regular lawsuits that are being done by several people against the governor and others. I think they'll probably try, but I think we've got a good position to object to it.
But you're right. Of course they're going to try.
Oh, sure. Anyway, thanks, Steve, for backing me up. I'm going to gather up my papers and go home and relax. I'll call you later.
All right.
Okay, bye-bye.